So this series exists to go over miscellaneous things in Perm specifically, but also Nurse Miku release. So this is up to this series is ramping up to a release of Nurse Miku, who is again not the most mechanically in-depth character as we get like task, cult, random item stats, but yeah, it's still a character I made, and she's more for testing purposes, but I might as well because she does carry Perm-specific custom content as well, and I might as well release it to the public at some point, and not in this episode, because yes, I haven't released other characters yet as of this episode, oh my sweet goodness, but I'll get to it, so let's get into this run. I forgot what old god I was gone. I have to guess now. So, for the sake of just, we're just gonna say Goizo Cult. It was not Goizo, but random item stats Nurse Miku here. Again, if you skip to the timestamps, all I'm trying to say is that this series is ramping up to a release of Nurse Miku, because Nurse Miku. So dexterity, knowledge, Toxicon, charisma, strength, and maybe second mystery. Basically, I made this character out of interest, but she also exists. Miku also exists as a nurse here for testing perm content usually. So whether I make tonkatsu ramen, whether I make another firearm weapon, so on and so forth. I've shown these things before, but I might as well make an official series, especially if I were to release this character, which is the plan. I say were, but that's the intent. So, just a quick overview in case you are now hooked into the video for whatever reason. Yeah, this is pretty much just Miku. However, she does have hospital perks instead of looting and doomed already, question mark. So I have to check, actually. I might as well while I'm here. So let's see. Yeah, she has adrenaline. Well, never mind. She has adrenaline and looting, but she does not have the other perk pack. Instead, she has the hospital staff perk pack. Those who know the custom content know, but if you don't know, that includes first aid and anatomy class. So ramen, arms, vigil. I did rotate my mysteries, by the way. So notations, shuttle, custom mysteries. So we'll save shuttle for later. We could do notations now. I think we're actually just going to take vigil for the I was going to say weapon, and I realized we're working with the syringe here. So the syringe here is the more yeah, the syringe here is the special perm item for Nurse Miku here. So if there were a mechanic, it's this. However, for some reason, it seems like I messed up the description, because you're also you also have a 33% chance to get Eldritch Fluid. So you'll see that if I defeat an enemy. And so it's all about defeating enemies. Most of the time you want to anyway, until a custom character is made that specifically functions on escaping, whether it's a mechanic or they just get straight up, you know, more out of escaping. Although the cost should be higher, but that's my opinion. So clap, clap, bow, bow, move on. We can grab the meat cleaver to throw or sell, but random item stats, actually I just realized random item stats. So I think this syringe is near the same. I can't tell though, but as we get third eye, it doesn't really help us. It only lasts for a mystery unless there's a very specific situation in which you need it, then sure. But yeah, Nurse Miku here has a lot of RNG in terms of the syringe prizes and whether or not you get adrenaline, really. You really want to get adrenaline. If you don't get adrenaline, yeah, things turn out a little bit worse. But it's not all you need, because the syringe does grant you items that essentially mitigate the damage you're taking. That's the, and that's a lot of characters' designs, so shrug. And then there's a 33% chance to get nothing, but them's the breaks. Unless I did not code this correctly, because I was kind of tinkering around with the Ito files, but should be functioning just fine. Period. That's the end of the sentence. But as a first initial run, I mean, this is not the most intense run to go through. Goizo Cold is pretty standard, all things considered, despite the fact that rest costs more, and your doom does decrease after every mystery, but on a Harbinger of Doom difficulty run, you'll feel it, but it won't be substantial. You still need to rely on your own strategy and or luck. So as we get Blood Frenzy, which will help out with the syringe, not so much taking damage, but maybe we can do a one-shot here and there. Usually you want to look for at least a two-shot. If you can't two-shot with Blood Frenzy, math-wise, I think I worked this out one day, like about 6 to 9 months ago. It's not great. You definitely lose a lot more than you gain by the damage increase. But again, depends on your situation. Each situation is different, I feel. So as we take notations now, yeah, and we get more damage dealt. I forgot about that. I remember there was some effect added to notations. I forgot if that's feels like a default bonus status effect, because even without perm you can add, I think, up to 2 bonuses not even just status effects that basically have an effect in the run. And yeah, that's all I need to say. Now here, I would like to brace, but unfortunately we're Miku with no adrenaline, so alternatively we can kick. I think we get just as much here. Yeah, we can go for a 73% next turn to two-shot this, and this is where, again, not just Blood Frenzy, obviously Incessant Beeping is adding its... for those who can't read the screen because maybe you're watching this on a mobile device, Incessant Beeping is increasing my damage dealt by 2. So, as we get a Weird Substance, yeah, Weird Substance is the one you can drink. You lose -1 max stamina, but you get 2 + 2 stamina + 2 reason. That's on purpose. It's supposed to really help you out more than it hurts you. Max stamina you usually don't care about unless you're doing a very specific Ghostly Spear run, and really, I think that's the only circumstance. Again, there are obviously other fringe cases, like maybe you're playing a custom character that uses max stamina for whatever reason, or looks at max stamina and does stuff, but as we took reason damage from somewhere, where did we take? Oh, Incessant Beeping. So we deal more combat damage, but we are guaranteed to take -1 reason per investigation. All things considered, if you run into 2 encounters, it more than pays itself off, but you are still losing upwards of 7, I think it's 7 reason if it's 7 investigations, but again, we'll see. We do get prescription pills, though this helps out. And maybe you get this later on. Again, well, actually, let's talk about that, because let's assume I wasn't keeping track, so I might have just forgotten. But if you get prescription pills guaranteed at some point in this mystery where you're taking reason every single investigation, some people might wonder, well, isn't that redundant? Why didn't you just, just make the player lose less reason? It's because there is nuance to that. The nuance is that basically it's a reason check. So what I mean by that is that you have enough reason to survive long enough to get the prescription pills. So if you start the mystery with... so let's use an actual situation there. Let's say you have you go into notations there with 2 reason, but you don't get the prescription pills until 4 investigations in. That means that you need, again, pretty much 4 reason, but that you need to somehow get reason elsewhere. If you could gamble on an event, but basically there is strategy to that design, as opposed to just making the player only lose 5 reason in the first 5 investigations and never giving them prescription pills. So even though you can kind of trade the numbers in that way, I need to level up, I'm autopiloting, by the way. Yeah, even though you can kind of trade the numbers in that way, there is still a point, basically. Let's actually try and brace, by the way. But I was a bit flabbergasted because I couldn't hear if there was actual BGM in this mystery. But it's Shuttle. It's Shuttle, so... Not to be confused with Taxi, which is something that I do often for whatever reason, but shrug. And here we can also go into, hey, folklore studies. Here we can also go into the topic of how custom content, for lack of better words, synergizes with each other. Synergizes usually implies a positive, usually if not always a positive meaning, but let's just say the combination of custom content, especially made by different creators. And this is what I always try to, or this is what I frequently try to, not warn or advise, but basically I have an opinion on which, when you're making custom content, you do have to be aware. I'm not saying that you have to know all custom content that exists, but I am saying that you should be aware of at least the averages of what happens in Roll of Horror, which is why I use base Roll of Horror kind of math to give you at least some kind of advice or opinion. And so what I mean by that is, let's take a very specific example again. Let's say you have notations and you're losing like 5 reason overall in the run, even with prescription pills or any other kind of reason mitigation, or you have incoming damage for that mystery, which has its own effect. I should talk about this as well at some point, but oh my sweet goodness, we actually are fighting this big, huge 36 HP enemy. But yeah, so you're losing 5 reason. So you make a another custom mystery that that has like a reason boss at the end. That run is kind of more. That run is not kind of. It's now more weighted towards a reason focused character that either recovers reason or maybe they're just good at combat. And so they lose less reason. Now, that's kind of a general thing, as a character that's good at combat, but you get the point. Basically, they have more ways to deal with reason loss than stamina or doom. So in a run where there are custom mysteries and events, or maybe a player is using a bunch of events that overall take more reason away from you, then yeah, you should be aware of that kind of change. Also pain, but we can throw this, but yeah. And so yeah, the Eldritch Flow, I don't mean for you to use it, but I gave you a kind of a plus side that you want to gamble on if you decide to. I do have stamina to spare, but I'd rather throw this for damage. Now the next question is, hold on, let me focus for a moment, is, I forgot what I was going to come back to talk about. I mentioned something like that and I immediately forgot. But I think this is this real? No, it's not real. That is 8 damage per, and we need more. So we are going to drink this weird substance. Interesting to note, you can actually cancel your sequence while you're in an item menu. But, we can kick instead. That would allow us to do the double attack. And let's drink this, by the way. So, yeah, we lose stamina for it, but I need the reason now. And this should be real 8 damage per. Now, we're going to gamble here, but if we lose here, so be it, I guess. Let's find out. Yeah, 8 HP, 8 HP. Anyway, we get weird substance again. And we could drink it, but I'll wait until I lose stamina. Because keep in mind, we have the Demon Mask equipped. I was looking straight at the Demon Mask name, and I didn't realize that was where my other source of damage was coming from. But, as we level up here, looting's a bit late. I don't really plan on fighting a lot of enemies, but the other 2 perks aren't great either, in my opinion, for me. But, so, yeah, off we go. Ramen Arms. So if we're on timeline B here, I do want to save on stamina if possible. We do have a lump of flesh for extra stamina healing. I also had a meat cleaver to throw. But when I don't remember events, I don't remember events. Now that being said, there is a side of kind of working with averages if you're making custom content. If you're following the advice that I said earlier, where it's like, oh, be conscious of the average, you know, strategy of World of Horror, you can throw that out the window if you don't believe in RNG. And the reason I say that is because, oh sweet goodness. Well, I could fight this. Yeah, it's only reason. Yeah, we're gonna fight this. So, yeah, if you don't believe or don't believe in RNG, depending on how you look at it, you could just say that maybe a player just runs into a lot, even though they're in a very on average reason decreasing run, they just happen to lose a lot of stamina because maybe they run into not the Gigolo, but say they run into a stamina enemy instead. Maybe the majority of their enemies they run into are stamina-based enemies or stamina damage enemies. So, again, you can think of a whole lot of things. That's why I say ultimately go with fun, because RNG, I consider RNG to be a bigger factor, for me at least. So I don't really consider the average case for me. But at the same time, I can't ignore average case because that's the average case. The average player will run into the average case. So, shrug. Anywho, this is... yeah, this should be 8 damage, and if it's not, well... okay, good. We get Eldritch Fluid for our trouble. I do want to throw that. Let's throw the library notes, or sell them instead. Yeah, if we have looting, we might be able to pick up a pack of cigarettes. Again, that's a very me-specific strategy. I would not advise anyone to actively look for ways to get cigarettes during a run, but... yeah, let's just take our reason and move on. So here's a stamina-based enemy. The flip side of this is that we deal a boatload of damage anyway, and then we can do Desperate Struggle. So I'm shrugging, as I say, I'm not going to lose a lot of stamina. I could handcuff this enemy as well, but I feel like that's a little bit of a waste. So yeah, so this is 9 plus, yeah, that's 11 damage. I dare to gamble again, and we'll option select the fluid throw. Okay, good. And off we go. Patina ring, throw for 1 damage, I recall, question mark, but eh. And then we have the weird substance for emergency healing at this point, essentially. So we'll just take the Doom here because we're on our 4th mystery with 48% Doom. You actually want to be at 63% for the extra mayhem. But if that stat increase doesn't matter for you, then so be it, right? That is a freebie, even if you fail, I'll take it. Watch you succeed. Yeah, you could get experience, but if you lose 1 stamina for succeeding but fail and lose nothing, you can always have a few of events like that, but I would not say more than 10% of events should be that way. We were on timeline 8, thankfully, but yeah, a lot of kind of theory crafting. And again, even though a lot of what I talked about it applies to primarily base World of Horror, all things considered, you still want to think about it in perm, because if you make perm content, you do want a good idea of what goes on, basically. And that I don't have a better word for it. In fact, we can probably just run away from 3 encounters and still be good here. So we're on encounter lockout now. We can also grab a pack of cigarettes, but we'll save them for later. So here's where the encounter lockout doesn't work, because the cultist hunter belongs to the backstory and not the location. So Yeah, we're investigating the apartments, and yet we see a seaside. That's just an observation. But, anywho, I could run from this as well, I think. No, you can't run. So this is where Eldritch Fluid comes in handy. It could have also handcuffed this encounter, but we don't have the handcuffs, so time to gamble on 95%. I mean, I was going to miss one of those anyway. You shouldn't normally expect to. Again, that's the average case. But if you do 95% every single time for a whole run, if you're unlucky, you're going to miss one of them. And if you're unluckier, you're going to miss more than one of them. So we have the lump of flesh, so we can brace again. Then we'll just Desperate Struggle next turn. We also did bonus damage, so we could definitely have done Desperate Prep Strong here. But, you know, when things don't work, they don't work. We'll throw the Demon Mask just in case. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Desperate Prep Strong gets rid of that there, even without the bonus damage from weaknesses. Hey, it's finally adrenaline time! Unfortunately, it's a bit late, but sure, we'll take the vending machines as well and buy a pack of cigarettes. That way we can definitely last. No more encounters still. I don't think generic encounters like Cultist Hunter affect your ability, affect the lockout. Or, I think they do affect the lockout. Anywho, moving on. Now, at a certain point, I could have gotten rid of Blood Frenzy as well, but I don't really care, so yeah, you know what, let's check the History Club. We have some Doom to spare, and we see nothing, so yeah, off we go. Don't have a minor injury, right? No. Bloated, technically, or is that the curse? No, it's injury minor, but it doesn't really matter. Take the reason. Walk forward. Could run into a downtown enemy here, but if we don't, we don't. Get it removed, no one cares, and off we go. Now, on the flip side of events that might not be, you know, designed to my liking, I won't say the best, but like my liking, I will say that on the other side of that, failing and losing only one reason, one stamina is a bit lenient, basically. Now, I'm not saying I'm not saying most events should be 2, but more than a few, the majority of them should be 2. Actually, let me correct myself. A majority of failing stat check should be around that 2 stamina, 2 reason range, and to some extent 2-3 doom. 3 doom sometimes can be a bit much, but that's kind of more the regular than 2 doom. 2 doom is, in my opinion, not enough. So if you were to kind of take the middle ground there, I would say, oh, that's right. I would say choose to usually do 3, but sometimes sprinkle in 2. But again, different creators have different things, and I say just do whatever is fun. Now, there is a limit. Like, you shouldn't penalize someone with, like, 10 Doom for failing, or 5 Reason for failing, but you get the point. I think I took out the handcuffs and never used them here, but Takushi-san can't threaten us with the Doom he's spitting in our face anyway, so hey, I could have also Desperate Struggle, but I'm feeling lazy, so yeah. Again, don't let it be said that 3 damage weapons don't do their worth. Now, that being said, this 3 damage weapon has an extra advantage to it, in that it allows you to grab weapons that can essentially help you deal more damage or survive, so yeah. But again, don't let it be said that 3 damage weapons aren't terrible, even though I say that they are a lot of the time. That's a me thing. But yeah, without further ado, if I don't use any more perm things, it's just going to be a few more Miku episodes. If I do, I'm going to add Tomb Nurse Miku here, or I'm not going to add to her, but I'll let her kind of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Showcase any perm content I do, basically. So this is a filler series, of course, but I always usually like my series to have some purpose, and so in this case, it's going to be releasing Nurse Miku. But yeah, without any further questions or comments from me, if you have any comments or questions or criticisms, and the usual, you know what to do. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye!